Our story began in the crowded streets of Oberlin de Lagos. The bustling noise of traders, the smell of roasted corn, and the occasional shout of a danfo conductor calling out destinations were the backdrop of our lives. Mama worked tirelessly as a tailor, stitching clothes late into the night just to put food on the table. Faith and I, just a year apart in age, did our best to help her. I often fetched water from the public tap, while Faith was more skilled at negotiating with the women selling fresh vegetables. Faith and I were inseparable, often finding joy in the simplest things. A piece of bread shared between us, laughter over a poorly tuned radio show, or dreams whispered under a mosquito net. "Philia," Faith would say, her tone serious, "one day we'll leave all this behind. We'll make Mama proud." As children, our differences were clear but complementary. Faith was the dreamer, always envisioning a life beyond the confines of Lagos. I, on the other hand, was pragmatic, focusing on what needed to be done in the moment. Together, we were a force, and Mama often said we were her greatest blessings. Mama's health began to decline as we grew older. The nights she spent coughing into a tattered handkerchief were the most terrifying for us. We knew we had to step up. Faith started selling snacks at school to bring in extra money, while I joined Mama in the tailoring business, learning to sew even as my fingers bled from the effort. It was Faith who first learned about the opportunity for me to visit the United States. A family friend's cousin, who lived in Dallas, offered to host me for a 1-month vacation. "Philia, you should go," Faith insisted. "You deserve a break. Besides, who knows? This could be our way out." Leaving Faith and Mama behind was difficult, but I couldn't ignore the hope in their eyes. Faith promised to take care of my twins, Chica and Chinello, as if they were her own. "Don't worry about anything," she said. "Focus on making the most of this opportunity." Arriving in Dallas was surreal. The skyscrapers, the clean streets, and the wide highways were a stark contrast to Lagos. I felt like I had stepped into another world. My host family was kind, showing me around and introducing me to the American way of life. But as the days passed, I realized how expensive everything was. I began to wonder if there was a way I could earn some money during my stay. That's when I heard about the caregiving job. It was cash in hand, no questions asked. I decided to take it, thinking it would be a one-time thing. The caregiving job was demanding but fulfilling. I worked with a family who had a teenage boy with cerebral palsy. The hours were long and the tasks were physically exhausting, but the pay was decent. For the first time, I was able to send money back home to Faith and Mama. When my 1-month visa was about to expire, I faced a dilemma. Returning to Nigeria meant going back to the struggles we had always known. Staying meant risking everything. This is for Faith and Mama, I told myself. And so I stayed. Living as an undocumented immigrant was a constant battle with fear. Every siren made my heart race, and every knock on the door felt like it could be the end. But the thought of my family back home kept me going. Faith was my lifeline. She assured me that the money I sent was making a difference. "Chica and Chinello are doing well," she would write in her emails. "We're saving every kobo in your account, Philia. Don't worry." Over time, I became more accustomed to the rhythms of my new life. I learned to navigate the streets of Dallas, where to shop for affordable groceries, and how to blend into the background. My employers, grateful for my hard work, referred me to others. Soon I was working multiple jobs, often sleeping only a few hours each night. Faith's emails kept me grounded. She updated me on the twins, their first day of school, the funny things they said, their growing personalities. "They're thriving, Philia," she wrote. "You're giving them a chance at a better future." Those words were my solace. 5 years slipped through my fingers like sand. The days blurred together, a relentless cycle of work, sleep, and sending money home. I missed birthdays, milestones, and moments that would never come again. Yet, I consoled myself with the thought that I was building something greater for my family. When I finally received my green card, it felt surreal. I could breathe again, knowing I was no longer living on borrowed time. The first thing I did was book a ticket back to Lagos. I imagined the joy on Faith's face, the warmth of my twins' hugs. But reality was waiting, and it was far from the reunion I had envisioned. The moment I stepped off the plane in Lagos, the humid air wrapped around me like an old friend. My heart raced as I spotted Faith in the crowd, her face glowing with a smile. Chica and Chinelo stood beside her, taller than I remembered, their eyes filled with curiosity. We hugged tightly, tears streaming down our faces. "You're home," Faith whispered. But as the days unfolded, cracks in the surface began to show. The warmth of our reunion couldn't hide the truth for long. It happened on a quiet evening as Faith and I sat talking after dinner. I brought up the savings account, excited to finally see the fruits of my labor. Her hesitation was the first clue. Then came the truth. She had used the money. All of it. "Philia, I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but there were so many expenses. The twins, Mama. I tried to keep up, but it wasn't enough." Her words hit me like a tidal wave. Years of sacrifice gone in an instant. Faith's confession was a punch to the gut. I stormed out that night, unable to fathom the extent of what she had done. My dreams of starting a business back in Nigeria, of building a better life for all of us, were now in shambles. The betrayal felt too personal, too painful. The twins, sensing the tension, stayed close to me in the following days. "Auntie Faith loves you," I assured them, even though my heart was heavy with doubt. But I couldn't look her in the eye without feeling anger bubbling inside me. For days, the house felt like a battlefield, even in its silence. Faith tried to explain herself again, but her words felt like hollow excuses. "Philia, I did what I thought was best. It wasn't just for me, it was for all of us." But her reasoning couldn't erase the bitterness in my heart. Chica and Chinelo clung to me more than ever. They were my anchors, their laughter a fragile thread keeping me tethered to some semblance of joy. "Mom, why are you sad?" Chica asked one evening. I forced a smile and said, "I'm just tired, my love." But deep down, I wondered if they'd ever understand the depth of my hurt. When I finally had the courage, I sat down with Faith again. This time I let her speak without interruption. She recounted how Mama's health had deteriorated after my departure and how the twins' school fees had spiraled beyond her reach. "I made mistakes, Philia," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "But I was desperate. I didn't want the children to feel abandoned, and I wanted Mama to have some comfort before she passed." Hearing this softened me, but only slightly. The weight of her choices still loomed over us. Faith's words took me back to the last few months of Mama's life. Through blurry video calls, I had seen her frail body and heard her weakened voice. I'd sent money for medicine, for comfort, but I hadn't been there to hold her hand when she took her last breath. "I needed you, Philia," Faith said softly, "but I also knew you were doing what Mama would have wanted." Her words stung, but they also reminded me that grief had been a shared burden, even if we bore it in different ways. The following weeks were tense but necessary. Faith and I began speaking more openly, not just about the money, but about everything we had endured. She showed me receipts, lists, and notes she had kept, documenting every expense. It didn't absolve her actions, but it helped me see her struggle. I also realized I had placed an enormous burden on her. Caring for 2 children and an ailing mother was a heavy load for anyone, let alone my sister, who had barely been an adult herself when I left. Chica and Chinelo were the light in this dark chapter. They were old enough now to sense the tension, but too young to fully grasp its depth. "Why are you and Auntie Faith fighting?" Chinelo asked one day. "We're not fighting, darling," I said, pulling her close. "We just have things to work out, but we love you both so much." Faith and I made a pact to keep our disagreements away from the twins. They had already been through enough upheaval. As I settled back into life in Lagos, I began looking for ways to rebuild. I reached out to old friends and acquaintances, hoping to find work. One day, I came across a former classmate who had started a successful catering business. She offered me a chance to work with her and even hinted at a partnership if things went well. This opportunity reignited a spark in me. I saw a path forward, not just for myself, but for the entire family. Faith, sensing my excitement, encouraged me to take the chance. "You've always been the strong one, Philia," she said. "You can do this." Forgiveness is rarely a single act. It's a journey. I found myself alternating between moments of understanding and flashes of anger. Faith, to her credit, never stopped trying to make amends. She took on extra work, contributing to the household in ways I hadn't expected. The twins were a constant reminder of why reconciliation mattered. Their joy and innocence were too precious to taint with lingering resentment. Slowly, I began to let go of my anger, choosing to focus on what we could build together rather than what had been lost. The catering business quickly became a shared dream. My former classmate turned partner, Ifeoma, taught me the ropes, from budgeting to creating authentic Nigerian dishes that appealed to a wide audience. I poured my energy into this new venture, finding joy in every meal I prepared and every satisfied client. Faith became an unexpected ally. She offered to watch the twins while I worked late nights, and even helped with deliveries when I needed her. It wasn't much at first, but it was her way of contributing to the dream I was building. Faith, driven by guilt and determination, started her own hustle. She began selling handmade Ankara accessories at local markets. Though it was small scale, her work was beautiful, and word of mouth quickly spread. Seeing her put in so much effort softened my heart further. One evening, she handed me a small bundle of cash. "This is for you, Philia," she said. "I want to start repaying what I took." Though it was only a fraction of what she owed, her gesture spoke volumes. Chica and Chinelo, now older and more aware, began to ask questions about my time in America and their father, who had been absent their entire lives. Their curiosity brought Faith and me closer as we navigated these tough conversations together. "Your mom worked very hard to make sure you had a good life," Faith would tell them, "and I did my best to help." I could see the pride in their eyes as they learned about our sacrifices, and it made every hardship feel worthwhile. Despite the wounds of the past, Faith and I found our bond strengthening. Late-night conversations turned into laughter-filled recollections of our childhood. She reminded me of dreams we'd once shared and how, in some ways, we were living them now. The twins adored her, and I couldn't deny the love she had poured into raising them. "You're a good mother," Faith said to me one evening. "Even when you weren't here, you were." Her words were healing in ways I hadn't realized I needed. Word about the catering business spread quickly. We began catering for weddings, corporate events, and even a few expatriates looking for authentic Nigerian cuisine. Each success felt like a step toward reclaiming the life I had envisioned. Faith's accessory business also began to thrive. Together, we supported each other, celebrating every small victory. For the first time in years, it felt like we were truly partners again, not just in business but in life. With life stabilizing, I found the courage to reconnect with old friends. Some had been upset by my long absence, while others welcomed me back with open arms. Through these connections, I found new opportunities for growth and expansion. Faith, too, found her own community. Together, we began to see the strength of the village around us, a reminder that we were never truly alone. One evening, as Faith and I sat watching the twins play outside, she turned to me and said, "Do you remember our dream of traveling the world?" I laughed, thinking of how far-fetched it had seemed back then. But the more we talked, the more I realized it wasn't impossible. We started a small savings fund together, not just for travel, but for the future we wanted for ourselves and the twins. It felt good to dream again, this time with a clearer path to achieving those dreams. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it allows for a new beginning. Faith and I finally reached a place of understanding. The resentment I once harbored gave way to gratitude for the sacrifices she had made in my absence. We visited Mama's grave together, laying fresh flowers and promising to honor her legacy. It was a moment of closure, a silent acknowledgement of the struggles that had brought us to where we were. The twins flourished in their school and began to take on small responsibilities in the family businesses. They were proud of their mother and aunt, often telling friends about the powerful women in their lives. Faith and I worked hard to instill values of resilience and kindness in them. We wanted them to grow up knowing the strength of family, even in the face of adversity. The catering business expanded beyond Lagos, with clients from Abuja and Port Harcourt reaching out. Faith's accessory line was now being sold in boutique stores, a testament to her creativity and hard work. We began saving for a new family home, one that could house us all comfortably. It was a symbol of how far we'd come, a shared dream realized through perseverance and love. Faith and I planned a small family vacation to a beach resort. It was the first time in years that we allowed ourselves to relax and simply enjoy life. Watching the twins play in the sand, I felt a deep sense of peace. "We made it, Faith," I said, tears brimming in my eyes. "Not perfectly, but we did." She squeezed my hand and smiled. "We always do, Philia." Life isn't perfect, but it's beautiful in its imperfections. Faith and I continue to build our businesses, support the twins, and dream of what's next. The pain of the past has become a part of our story, a testament to our resilience and love. As I watch my family thrive, I know that Mama would be proud. Faith and I are proof that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that family, despite its flaws, is worth fighting for.